When I was 11, during a flight from, was it back from United States back to Israel, because I was born in Ohio, and then at age 6, I moved to Israel. And when I was 11, we came to visit our family in Ohio. And on the way back during turbulence, I suddenly saw my dad go through a panic attack or something where all the flight attendants had to attend to him and calm him down. And I basically I think at age 11, I also started seeing the news. Like there was like this awakening. My child innocence almost felt like it was broken. I suddenly noticed myself watching the news, realizing there's bad guys and there's wars, and I learned about the Holocaust and everything, and I learned about AIDS and cancer. That was the year that suddenly all the adult information came to my world, and I was overwhelmed. And that was the year I remember running out of the classrooms to hyperventilate in the bathroom to catch my breath when they were talking about diseases that can't be cured, and just watching the news, and then not understanding, like, why does this exist? Why does evil exist? Um, and just slowly grew from there, because that's when it burst. I didn't have awareness of that before.
Wow. Wow, but even as I'm listening to you, you can know I can like if I don't know if you can hear this the audience through like when you're listening, but like as I'm having this conversation, like I'm feeling like I can sense like that must have been at 11. One of the things before we continue, like kind of where that continued to compound, you said something really interesting as well. Though you said I used to blame, but now I realize I'm in essence taking accountability. Like, how long did that take for you to stop playing the blame game? And if you say yesterday, by the way, everyone's going to be like I totally feel you, Sarit. And but what happened, and what had to happen for you to do this? Because I think that so often, and again, this isn't true, but I think sometimes I feel like with a lot of therapy, it's like unhashing a lot of things that lead to blame and it's like this happened to me rather than for me or through me. And like how long did it take from 11 till you had that moment to be like, you know what, actually my parents are not in charge of how I accept things?
Yeah. Well, I can say that my fears were the most profound after age 11, between, I want to say, not between, but between 11, and then it got really, really big towards 23, 24. That's when I had a major fear of flying. And that's when I completely, like, there was like one really bouncy flight that just sparked all the memories. It brought me the memory of my dad freaking out on the plane. I started thinking about 9/11. Like, there was people yelling on the plane because they were just being loud, and because there was very bouncy turbulence, so they screamed like, yikes. So I was like fearing for my life on that plane ride. So after that, so around age 24 is when I had the most anger towards my dad, especially because I'm daddy's girl and the most like him. So I also took the most personality of the fears like him. And I was really upset with him, and upset, why didn't he go take care of himself and conquer his fears so I wouldn't inherited them? And why didn't he act more brave? And why wasn't he more confident? Why didn't he pretend he wasn't afraid? Why did I have to witness that? Why did I have to see him break down in front of me? So I had so much blame. And then I started therapy, and I'll tell you when I started therapy. I started therapy when I got pregnant with my first son, because I was still in the blame game, and I said, I am not going to transfer all these fears that I have to my kid. I'm going to be different than my dad. So I was very in despite. And that set me off into starting therapy because for years I also had a very high ego against therapy because already my family was telling me I'm too sensitive, I'm exaggerating. So what would it say about me if I also saw a therapist? It would justify them. But I knew that when I was pregnant, I don't care anymore. I am treating these fears. They have to go away. I don't know how, but I'm starting this mission. And it was during the therapy that I started realizing this. I mean, I continued all kinds of modalities, but another therapist that I really, really love, his name is Dr. Don Wood, and he's a trauma doctor. And I actually went to him only a year and a half ago. I'm 41 now, and I love sharing my age because I love life. And yes, and he taught me that every person is the way they are because of their atmospheric conditions of how they were brought up. And I started seeing my dad differently throughout the years of therapy. And to be honest, only in the last year, I suddenly felt at such a great place where now I can almost give therapy to my dad. I can hold him. He can't trigger me anymore. He can't make me feel afraid to do anything. Like, because he would always say, be careful, don't go there, don't be around crowds. We got to be careful because of our identity. We're Jewish, Israeli. He was always overprotective over me. And it came from love, but because of my temperament, I'm naturally a more cautious person. I'm not naturally fearless. I had to create the adventure person in me. Then I was able to start having compassion to him. And now I'm able to talk to him and help him and question his fears.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that a lot of people suffer from fear and like the symptom of that of anxiety or worry. The thing that I'm curious about is that in your story, it so often happened from that atmospheric pressure, which is super interesting. As a pilot, as you are moving about the country, the atmospheric pressure changes, and so you have to adjust the atmospheric, uh, like in your on your altimeter, so that you have the correct altitude. So it's interesting you say that he said that like there's different atmospheric pressures that affect you. When you think about you now as 41 with kids, I think that it's pretty obvious to state like parents have impact on kids. There's a whole industry of therapists as a result of it. But how have you been able to transform the fact of your own journey to create a platform for this next generation? Because I think it might be easy to say, well, my dad was anxious, my mom was stressed, like, and now I'm this, and now my kids are, and it's almost like you could continue the family tree, but it seems like you've kind of drawn a line in the sand and say, this ends with me. How has that transpired as to you as a parent? Because I'm thinking, even if you maybe don't feel like you're anxious, right, or have awareness of you're anxious, doesn't mean the fact is that you're not creating atmospheric pressure that is creating that. Can you talk a little bit about, especially by the way, it took about 6.5 years Sarit for her writing this book. So this wasn't just like an overnight thing. This is something that deeply lived. But as you're writing that book, what did you find as you can relate to your identity as a parent and how you think about parenting now?
There was a very beautiful moment. I kept trying to talk to my first therapist, Ozzy, who's a dear friend of mine as well. And I told him, like, how do I hide my fears? Because I'll start from the end. I did not become fearless. I still have anxiety moments. I just don't call myself an anxious person anymore. I manage my fears and worries and anxieties way better now. And at the time when I was starting to work on conquering my fears for the sake of my future children, I asked Ozzy, I said, how do I pretend I don't feel fear? Because I'm about to do this thing. Oh, I'm about to go on a flight with my kids and they're going to see I'm afraid. Because I was still at that stage that I was really nervous and dreading the flight that was coming, even if it's in a month. I had all these symptoms before. And he told me, oh, Sahrit, you've got this all wrong. We're not supposed to hide our fears from our kids. We're supposed to show them how we handle them, how we go through them, so they can see how we tap into courage. We were never supposed to hide them. And then also I was able to give compassion to my dad. He just didn't have tools. So yeah, and there's so much more freedom in that. I don't have to worry about my kids watching me worry. I get to be me and I get to show them like, hey, mom's feeling a little scared right now. And mom is brave and I'm going to get through this. Let me show you how I do it.
So I find that interesting, kind of setting the scene here about your anxiety and worry, but you are a world traveler, right? Like through, in terms of workshops that you've taught across, like Greece, Africa, Hawaii. Not only that, but you're married to a serial entrepreneur who, quite frankly, sitting still might be something that is more the exception than the rule, right? And the fact that, but you have traveled, you've world schooled your children. So talk to me a little bit about like that, because I think that uh, if that first portion, someone would assume that like, okay, you know what, mouse scurries in the corner, you're like, right, but and you tell the story about your dad, and then you tell the story about like you traveling, but yet here you are in essence, and often, especially in some of the groups that we all run in, like what you and Lior have built is an inspiration to so many other entrepreneurs, because you guys are saying no to normal and saying yes to, I think, the exceptional. And so I would love to understand how you have turned that fear and the courage to basically live this life of that you are traveling all over. You don't necessarily have like a major home base that you're always there all the time. Can you talk through that?
Yeah, this surprised me as well because I didn't have a lot of ambition when I met Lior. I had a very simple vision. I always wished to find a boyfriend and then get married, have kids, and then get fat on the couch watching Netflix with snacks. I didn't think fast beyond that, you know? And then Lior comes in, just dancing into my life. We met salsa dancing also, and starts asking me, what is your passion? What is your purpose? And for 3 years, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Leave me alone. I don't know. I just want to be happy. That's my answer. What do you want to do? I just want to be happy. I didn't have like that kind of vision that a lot of entrepreneurs have, but I was always entrepreneurial. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur at heart. And what Lior helped get out of me was he basically was the one that offered the different challenges, now that I think of it. And it's a lot in the book. I, by mistake, told him that one day, someday, I wanted to sound cool. That one day I want to do skydiving. That was like the thing that I thought I could one day do. Now, if you even said the word roller coaster, I would say never, not for $1 million, not in this lifetime. It's not for me. So I was really on the safe path, the cozy, the Netflix path, the comfort zone. I love comfort. Still, I suffer from that I love comfort so much. So if it's not comfortable, I'm like, irritated. And Then he suddenly said, look at that. I actually, a friend um, got me this free ticket to skydiving, and we can only do it this weekend or we'll lose the ticket. So he offered me this first adventure. And suddenly I was faced with this real truth and reality. Like, I said I'm going to do that one day. Did I mean it? And long story short, I decided to take the leap of faith and do the skydiving.
Stop it. So wait, hold on. You're talking about fear of flying. Your dad loses his shit, and you're flying at 24, and your first act is to jump out of a perfectly good plane.
Yeah, there was a whole process there. And also, my dad didn't talk to me for 2 months after. He was really mad at Lior. And we were only 3 months dating. So he's like telling my mom, tell your daughter that her boyfriend just, how do you say, just shot himself in the foot. You know, that expression, like, shot himself in the leg. Like, he didn't talk to any of us.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So Leo challenged you. You jump out of a plane. Then what?
There was a lot of resistance. I come with a lot of resistance. Okay. Because I'm not naturally adventurous, even though everybody thinks I am. And I mean, I am in a lot of ways, but not in the ways that I viewed the adrenaline seekers on the, Triple X channel where they were jumping off cliffs and stuff. So I always viewed myself as a scaredy cat. And basically, through this whole story, I decided to do it and completely leap of faith. And it was the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. I didn't think that somebody like me could even do it. So it was the first time that I had this crack of expansion of what a new version of myself even looked like. I could never even imagine her. I literally proved to myself that also I can do adventurous things. And it gave me a taste for what else can I do? And slowly, slowly, more adventures started coming in from Lior. And I started saying, first I said no, full resistance. Then I said maybe. And once it was a maybe, I was like, I didn't say yes, but I did it anyways. And I didn't realize how much I secretly really wanted it. I kept pretending, like to myself, like, no, I don't do these things. Oh, you're doing scuba diving for your birthday? Okay, maybe I'll try that too. Sign me in also. And then every single day was a struggle, like the scuba course. Um, every day the trainer had to take me by the hand under the sea because I would have this invisible wall every time I was standing above the ocean and need to go under the water. It was like, I'm afraid to have a future panic attack. I was always afraid to have a future panic attack. And many times Lior told me, you haven't had one yet. Why do you think you're going to have one? And it was the fear of being afraid, the fear of having a fear. Exactly. And so I didn't even really have that many panic attacks since age 11. So I didn't really even know what it would feel like. I just kept living my dad's that I saw because I saw my dad having a real panic attack on the airplane. So I said, oh, I don't want to have that. If I go under the water, I might have that. So there was so much resistance through every single adventure that was offered to me. And what happened was something deep inside me, there's an adventure that lives inside me, and she was kicking and pushing, trying to crack this egg of resistance. And she was begging to go on this adventure. So I went kicking, yelling, and screaming into these different adventures. That's why there's a book, because these stories are crazy. Like, and what happened was because I was willing to go through the fire and go so scared, not like, okay, you know what, I'm going to do it. Like, oh yeah, that was easy. No, no, no. I did not give Lior an easy life through each of these challenges. But what happened after was every single time I conquered a fear, there was this rebirth, a new version of myself, a feeling that, oh my gosh, I didn't know I can do that. And if I can do that, what else I can do? What else can I do? So I don't remember the exact question, but it was basically how we got to travel family. So yeah, so slowly, slowly, we kept doing more adventures and coming together and being like, okay, let's create a vision. What kind of crazy life do we want to have? Because he kept showing me I come from such a cookie cutter, like this is how my parents did it, this is how my grandparents did it, this is how we should do it kind of family. And he kept telling me, no, we get to create our own life. We don't have to follow anybody. So at first I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are we allowed? Do we have to ask somebody? Because I used to be a professional people pleaser. I'm like, I want to follow some rules. What rules can I follow? And Lior comes in and he's like, we're making our own rules. I'm like, okay, okay. So I faked it till I make it. And suddenly I'm sitting and telling people like, yeah, I'm a scaredy cat. And I was at Day with Destiny with Tony Robbins. And I was sharing with them literally last December. My highest value is looking for safety and certainty. And they hear also all the stories I have. They're like, Sarit, I don't think you're looking for safety and certainty. I think your highest value is actually adventure. Adventure. So I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta stop with this old story. I am no longer the scaredy cat. I am an adventurer. So it's not a moment in time that I suddenly um decided that will be the lifestyle, but basically we kept allowing for more. And then we also were inspired by many families. The Bucket List family on YouTube. Followed them for 7 years and decided, okay, one day we are going to be joining with them on their safari trip in Africa. And I was so scared. I was so scared, just to mention the flight from Atlanta to to Cape Cod in South Africa. Cape Town, thank you. Looking at the screen, how long we're flying above the ocean, let alone being a completely foreign country. I mean, that's why I just keep living my story. I am not suddenly this fearless woman that goes to new places with no fears anymore. I am what my dear friend Ozzy told me. He said, Sarit, you are the bravest scaredy cat I know. I am still a scaredy cat, but a brave one.
How much how much of your curation and the artisanal well of courage that's had to come to you for you to say yes has come from this journey of answering Leor's question, purpose and identity. Like in essence, that's what he was asking. Who are you and who are you wanting to be? I think that's in essence like what he was asking you. How much of that has happened that as you have discovered those answers, that has allowed you to, as Dan Sullivan would say, be be scared, but with wet pants, right? But you still do it anyways, right? In that way. How much of that has and how much of what you've observed with the people around you who maybe suffer what you suffered through, it's because they don't have those answers.
Because they don't have the vision?
The vision, or they don't have the identity. They identify themselves as, because you had said one thing that I thought was really important. You're like, I don't identify as an anxious person. My guess is that before you did the first skydive, you identified as I'm an anxious person. But when Leor kept asking you while you're salsa dancing, I'm going to call it the salsa dance question, right? Like, you're like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. But how much of that wasn't that because you didn't identify as I am a happy person, but you were like, I'm an anxious person? Like, how much of that in you through these hard things answered some of those questions of, if so, for example, if Leor was to ask you again today that question, salsa dancing, what would you say?
Well, now if he asks me, like, what is my purpose? What is my passion? I will say, do you have 10 hours? Because now I know much more how wonderful life is and how delicious it tastes. and I know how to notice beauty, and I know how to see how many pathways we can take. Like, there's so much we can do in this life. And I didn't realize how much I was self-limiting myself. I wanted to be cozy in my home, and I was too afraid to live outside because danger lives there. And now I know too much. I've traveled enough to see, it's endless. The possibilities are endless. The identities we can become are endless. Have you ever heard of Derek Siever's book, How to Live? Well, I love that book because it shows you so many different kinds of way to live, and I'm sure you can create million billion options after that. But just basically, I, I think I've seen now so many people that remind me of how I used to think. And I'm happy. I don't need to have an adventurous life or do anything crazy. I'm good. I don't need to conquer this and these fears. And they just don't realize how they're going to feel and what doors are going to open after they go through that. Because I've realized that the fear is the door to our next like epic life. And basically that's where wherever we're blocking ourselves, we actually want to go there. It's like, oh, I'm afraid of that. Oh, I should, instead of going away from it, I should go through it.
But why? Like why? Like because everyone has something that they just go, whether it's an imposter syndrome, it's something that's like, am I worthy of this? Right, that's a block. Right, it's this scares me. I'm fearful of. How do I protect what my status quo is? Right, those are all these like forms what you're just talking about. But why lean into it?
Even an example of like why learn more words. Say you came to this earth and only had one word to use. Like, let's just, or two words. Let's just say iggly biggly, iggly biggly, biggly billy, iggly iggly. We could just talk all day with those two words that I have. But the more words I have, I can express myself more. So when we're conquering fears, we are learning about ourselves more. I was so strongly opinionated that this is who I am. And sorry, I don't do roller coasters. I don't do all these things. And basically, I was separating myself from growth. And we're always either growing or dying. We're all dying. That's also another thing that I got to face, the fear of dying, right? But nobody has escaped it yet that we know of. And so with the fears, it's just a really fast, uncomfortable launch pad to growth. It's literally the instructions of where your next growth path is. For example, I have a dear friend that shared with me that she was also afraid of going into the ocean. And we talked about the reasons why, the traumas why. And after all that, I was helping her reframe the fear. And the next morning, she got on a kayak. We were in Maui. And I didn't go into the ocean until I was 18. That's also one of my stories. I grew up watching Jaws. So I was afraid because of the shark. And I didn't go into the ocean until I was 18. But at the same time, I grew up on all the romantic movies. And I dreamed that one day I want to be able to be romantic in the water and be with a boyfriend and splashing water. And so there was a calling to go into the ocean, but also don't go into the ocean. So all of these fears, by the way, there's a fear why I don't want to go there, but there's also a curiosity that I've always had. I've always had this curiosity for different things. And I conquered the fear of going into the ocean so much that I am a basic free diver now and a certified mermaid. It's a thing. And yeah, seriously, certified mermaid by Patty.
That's awesome.
And I was talking to my friend, And I encouraged her to try and get on in that kayak the next morning. And she went in, and it basically like changed like the whole trajectory, to however you say that word, of her possibilities now, because now she can add activities in the ocean back into her life's template. Because basically, what is fears? It's like you look at your life and you're like, okay, I'm not ever going to do that. I'm gonna avoid this section. And not only when you go through the fear, you're bringing that section back into your life and feel expanded, like you can be openly vulnerable and live fully with all your emotions, and also it expands more options that you don't even know of. That's the thing. You don't know what's behind that door until you pass it. Because, for example, you conquer the fear of flying, you can become a travel family. How the heck would I become a travel family if I wouldn't conquer my fear of flying? There would be no way. I wouldn't have the life I have today if I didn't go through my fears. There's no way.
How does and where does control fit into this whole conversation around fear, courage? I mean, this has to be somewhere in there, right?
That's the dance. That's the dance, and it's a dance between. So I have a lot of courage in me. I found out that it wasn't Lior that brought me courage. It has to come from within. We all have it. We just don't hear it. We don't feel it. We just have to dig for it and start noticing places that we were courageous in our past in different ways. Like, for example, I would have courage going to the middle of a dance floor, being the first one there and deciding I am going to start a dance party. I'm going to be the first one on the dance floor, no substance. From age 15, I did this and started dance parties. So noticing that I have courage in me helped me bring out that courage when I needed to. There's a dance between fear and courage. And the thing that somehow I was gifted in figuring out was creating fun tools to go through these fears. For example, a fun tool that I have for turbulence that I hope helps you or anybody that needs this is when there's big turbulence, heavy turbulence, put on my friend Michal gave me this tip. You put on your headphones, your earbuds, and you put on jazz music or any music that makes you shake your hips, and you start dancing with the turbulence. So it confuses your eardrum and you don't even feel that you're moving. And I created all these fun tools, and instead of being afraid in the moment, Mel Robbins talks a lot about you can't have two feelings at the same time. So either you're having fun, when you're having fun, you're excited, you can't be feeling fear. So I found this dance between, oh, I'm feeling fear right now. Let me reframe this to, I'm excited. There's a big dance that keeps happening there. Fear is actually like leading the way a lot. Like, oh, you want me to go there? No, I don't want to. I do not want to. And sometimes now I'm like, I've conquered enough fears. I'm allowed to rest this one out. But apparently I got to keep walking the walk and talking the talk. So I keep asking myself, okay, what's the next fear I'm going to conquer? What's the next fear? And then I got
Have
to
you ever had,
dance.
have you, go ahead, Sahrit.
That's it.
Have you ever had a fear that was then further founded by doing it? Like just being like, I'm really fearful of that. And you did it and you go, oh, now I understand exactly why I'm fearful of this.
I mean, I was definitely surprised most of the time that it wasn't as scary as I thought. So anticipation always felt scarier. But I'm trying to think of something because I've done some things that I am questioning myself, how the heck did I do that? Like paddle board on an inflatable paddle 2 miles out in Maui to go paddle 5 feet away from humpback whales. The girl who didn't go into the ocean until she was 18. How did that happen? but I wasn't scared. I'm calm. A humpback whale is just kind of riding with its baby next to me, and I'm like, oh, this feels so natural. And I'm asking myself, who am I right now? So most of the times, I actually was dumbfounded that it wasn't that scary, and quite the opposite. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something that, because the ego looks to be right. Your brain is trying to keep you safe and get you away from feeling these fears, trying to protect us.
Yeah.
So it's looking to be right. It's looking to say, I told you so. You shouldn't have done that. And I didn't get that. Every time I went through the fear, the answer was, I should have gone through the fear. That was the correct answer. I don't like that answer. I don't like feeling fear.
No. So if someone's listening to this and they're married to someone, they're in business with someone, or they themselves are this kind of resonating with what you're talking about, of what you went through, what are questions or some easy tools for them to be able to like metabolize that into something that feels like, okay, I see you? Because I think part of it is also not. I think some of the things, at least from my experience of just like witnessing, it is that it's almost they have the feeling, and then there's the shame or internal judgment about even having the feeling, which then creates it multiplies it. It almost becomes a self fulfilling like whatever, and then um, so how do people be able to see it, respect it, but not empower it?
Well, I think first thing you want to notice between you and your partner, who is the one that loves the comfort zone and who is the one that is pushing for growth. The problem happens when both partners want comfort zone. You want at least one growth pusher in the relationship, which in my case was Lior. I was the resistant one. I was like, no, comfort zone sounds better. Comfort zone sounds better. And I got nudges for growth. Then you want to have courage to not worry about the facial expressions and the shame and the like. I allow myself, that's where I do have courage to like cry and like look really scared and feel whatever is coming up when I'm going through the fear, because we see past that. Like we see the willingness. So as long as you have the willingness to go through the fear, take away the guilt or the shame how you're looking when you're doing it. You mentioned Dan Sullivan's sentence, which I actually put it in my book with the wet your pants. It's a very funny sentence. And that sentence helped me go on my first in the complete darkness roller coaster, because I actually did do my first roller coaster at age 34. And I put that in the book. And it wasn't because of the book that I wrote it. It was after giving birth in a car. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of these evolutions that I realized that I can do anything. And right before I went on this roller coaster, I know there's so much. Right before I went on this roller coaster in the dark, and I was so scared, okay, terrified. I was thinking about Dan Sullivan's sentence. Fear is not doing the thing because you're afraid to wet your pants. Courage is doing the thing with wet pants. And because I have courage in me to act however crazy I need when I'm going through the fear, I started laughing with Lior and I said, you know what? If I go in with wet pants or, if something happens while I'm on the roller coaster, it happens. And I think that was the thing I needed to loosen the fear. And also I brought humor into it. So that really is an antidote to fear, humor. So I really hope that couples will look at each other and have this talk between them of, are we pushing each other for growth? Or are we hanging out here in the house a little too long? Like, what other life and lifestyle could we be having? Like, let's talk about it with each other. Let's talk vision. Because if there is not a growth nudger between them, then they will continue living the same. There's no wave to get it started. And the lifestyle that we have today is only because we kept getting out of the comfort zone. That's the biggest thing. People get used to staying in the comfort zone. Things are going great now. We're content. We're happy. Why change? Why change it now? Because you don't know what else is out there. You can't even imagine how good it gets.
Yeah. I found my journey as being an entrepreneur, especially in the companies that I've built, is that when everyone starts getting really comfortable is usually when I start feeling really uncomfortable. Because to your point, I think comfort, just to be clear here, there's a big difference between comfort and contentment. And I think that, at least from my perspective, comfort is patting ourselves on the back. Hey, we did it. We got here. Like, yay. And kind of resting on that laurel versus, to your point, looking at what's the next thing that I can lean into. But so I 100% agree. I mean, how do you feel about that? How do you define in terms of, because at a certain point, like you said, there's a growth and then there's kind of a comfort person, right? Uh, is there ever a place where you are like you've arrived, you're in a place of contentment, that the homeostasis, or is that just a homeostasis, you enjoy it while it's there, and then when the next season of life comes in, you're ready to find that sweet spot again?
Well, I kind of conditioned myself to seek for growth now. And it took a long time. A lot of going after different adventures. But naturally, for many years, I kept thinking to myself, like, didn't I do enough? Like, especially because Lior kept adding more adventures. He's like, want to do a helicopter ride? I'm like, why? Like, when is enough enough? Like, when are we gonna, like, why do we have to keep risking our lives? And the answer kind of was like, never. It's never enough. Like, when you die, then it's enough. Because there's always opportunity to grow. Now, I think that comfort times are great, like going on vacation and going, spa days and stuff like that. But in the day to day, it's very personal. You got to be truthful with yourself. Am I just being comfortable here? Are there any more resistance in me? Are there any more limits that I'm putting on myself? Self-limiting beliefs? Is there something else that I want to do? And I'm just saying, no, I'm not going to do it because it's comfortable. For example, I would love to do a TED Talk one day. But it's very easy for me to say, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom now and we're homeschooling the kids. They need me. So I'm not going to pursue the TED Talk. And I know, truthfully, that it scares the heck out of me. Like, public speaking is my next big fear. And I just graduated a public speaking course for 6 months because that's where the fear was. So that's where I went. Because I want to go to a place where I can be honest with myself and say, wow, I don't see any other fears to conquer. But as long as they keep showing up, I feel like I kind of owe it to myself to go and see what's there. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I'm definitely also changing my intent more. I tell myself the first 40 years I led with fear. The next 40 years I want to lead with joy. It's a choice now. Because now I know much more how to dance with fear and manage it. And I get to share with others, teach them how to dance with it, how to make fear fun. You can be terrified on the roller coaster and scream and yell, or you could, be so excited to be there and happy that you're doing this safe thing. You're basically buckled, so you will survive it most of the time. I mean, pretty much. Every time I buckled in, I'm like checking it 3 times.
Yep. You're like, okay, I think we're good.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, I was actually curious because you said you were a pilot. So that's something that's been very interesting to me because before I rode roller coasters, I used to divide the world into two kind of people. I thought that the world was either you ride roller coasters and you're not afraid of anything. And I would put you in that list because you're a pilot. And I thought the other half of the world, they don't ride roller coasters and we get each other. That's where the name came also from. It's kind of its own identity. Because every time I was afraid of something, I said, "Oh, I don't ride roller coasters. That's not for me." And while writing this book, I realized everybody has a fear. So I'm very curious. I'm very curious because you are a pilot, which is shows me that you have a lot of confidence and not the same kind of fears of, the roller coaster similar fears, right? Height, speed.
Oh, what's crazy about it is I have a tremendous like fear of heights. So like when I yeah, so like when I stand next to really big drop offs, I'm just like take a step back. My kids start moving around there. I'm like, and coming on over here. Um and it's interesting, after Benny died, it was the Benny question of, are you alive or are you living? And it had always been one of my dreams. And as I started thinking about it, first it was like Jenna was like, it's a hard no, because she had fear about like me flying. She was like, nope. She's like, didn't marry you for you to die. And I mean, not like in the sense that eventually. And then we start talking about the different like brands and finding, like Cirrus is an incredible brand, has incredible amounts of like safety, whole plane parachute, safe return, like all these like incredible things. And then she signed off on it. It was interesting. It was this first evolution. It was like dealing with Jenna's fear. And then once she said yes, and then we bought a plane. And then I realized I was like, okay, I need to do this. And um, what I realized right away was that the more that I started to feel like I was solidifying, the more I needed to like lean into that before it calcified. Like whatever that thing was. And for me, once I got up there right away, it was super fun. But then it started going, okay, we're going to do maneuvers. And like my first flight, I actually bought the plane before I even knew how to fly. And then my first flight was my flight back from where I bought the plane, a 4-hour flight. My second lesson was with my instructor as well, as my first flight. But this time he goes, because there wasn't any family in the plane. My wife and kids came with me to like, because you only get to buy your first plane once. And within about 10 minutes of being in the plane, taking off, he's like, so we're going to do a thing called a stall. And I'm going, number one, like stalls, it's the thing that you want to like avoid. And you need to do them. But Sears has like a history of like doing stalls can quickly turn into something that is like like why you have a parachute. And so I'd done tons of like research on it just to fully just be aware, like an aware decision. And within 10 minutes, truly I would call it my first real lesson where he's like, we're going to do a stall. And he's like, I'm going to show you, and then you're going to do it. And I am literally going, what the fuck is going about to happen here? Like, what is going to go? And I did it. And when he did it, I was just kind of like, I could feel like kind of like watching him. I'm trying to pay attention at the same time. I'm like feeling these feelings. And then he goes, okay, you're going to do it. And yeah, so what you do is you increase your angle of attack, meaning you put pitch nose up. up, up until basically your angle of attack breaks the wind. We're going over the wings, and then all of a sudden, in essence, your engine's still going, but you are in essence falling like this. You've lost lift. And it wasn't just like indication, because there's a horn that goes off that goes stall, stall, stall. It's like you need to, yeah. So you can just imagine my first time I'm hearing this thing, and not only that, but it has these stall strips that makes the plane kind of shake. So not only is the plane kind of shaking and it's going stall, stall, like in a very like, hey, you should probably listen to me way. And he's like, hold it, hold it, keep going. And then you really get the indication, and then you like recover, and there's like a way that you recover. And I don't have that fear like now, but it was at the time. I'm going, oh my God, do I really want to be doing this? And but I just knew that if I didn't do it, if I didn't finish this, if I that two things that would happen is that number one is that I would have fully solidified to myself that I was not capable of doing things that made me feel uncomfortable. And the second thing is how could I challenge my kids to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself? And I think that was the the part, but it really, you know, like that's really what it was. And the audience has heard me talk about this, but I have to tell you, like having like that courage to remove a breathing tube from your child, I just realized I was like, there is nothing hard in my life ever again. Like, because that was by far, like, that was like, I would never wish anyone to have like that moment, but that was hard. Like, that's what that is my boundary of hard. And, but man, I tell you though, when that first time come into that stall, I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I was like, no. And I remember in my head, I was like, no, you're going to do this and you're going to master it. And just leaned into it, to your point.
There's this moment when you are doing something that you have to be highly aware at the time. Like you can't go into your fear. You don't have the time to have a panic attack in the moment. That's a moment where I that's my least favorite moment in the fear facing process.
Yes.
Where that's the one where you want to run away. You say, no, all my talent, all my gifts, all my awareness has to stay awake now. I can't afford
No.
an off guard right now. And it's very, wouldn't you say it's almost like the peak of the present moment?
It is. I mean, your awareness and like, and focus and presence in the moment. Yeah, it is. It truly is. And then what's interesting though, is that it's like weather systems. High and low pressures always follow each other. Warm and cold fronts always are chasing each other. And as I'm listening to you, Sahrit, I'm realizing that fear is like those weather systems. What's always chasing fear is pride, confidence, and capability. Because as I'm listening to your story, like as you're talking about today, it's like you faced it and what followed. And so once I did that first stall, it freaked me out. And then he was like, okay, you got to do it again. And I was like, okay. And then and I was like, no. I was like, come on, man. In my brain, I'm looking like, you sure? So I do it again. And we ended up doing it about like 6 times. And by the sixth time, it wasn't like I wasn't nervous anymore, but the difference was it was like, oh, like death is not imminent. And so there was a sense of pride. And I remember coming home and Jen was like, "Oh, how was it?" And I was like, "Oh my God." But I actually had now had a story to tell. I was like, "You're never gonna believe this." I was like, "I had to do this thing." And you can just tell she's like, "Yeah, nope, nope, not for me." But then I left with a sense of like pride and confidence that, like, okay, what's next? So
So going back to, remember we were talking about the extreme emotions. So if you want to feel the feeling that happens after conquering fear, you can only get that when you conquer the fear. It's kind of like you can't really enjoy the feeling of true happiness without feeling the sorrows, you know, the big sadness moments. Like that gives you the polarity. Maybe that's why people are content, because they live in the middle and they don't allow themselves to go feel the grief, go feel the fear.
yeah,
And what kind of life is living just content without feeling those edges and the extreme joy and the extreme pride and confidence?
I think the word is safe, predictable, consistent, which, I it's interesting. We live in a time frame, Sarit, where we have more than we've ever had before. We have access to more information. We have access to more communication, connections, networking. We have access to more ideas. We just have access, like unprecedented access to everything. I mean, if you want something now, within a click of a button, it can be into your house in an hour. I mean, I remember it used to be take like 6 weeks when I'd order like my school clothes. We get the J.C. Penney's catalog, and they'd be like, "Well, you better order." And it's like first week of July, and I was like, "Why are we gonna do this?" We're like, "Well, we got to make sure, just in case, when we're gonna order. And yeah, in a lot of ways, it's led to a lot of comfort, and yet we've had more. I actually think there's probably someone can fact check me on this, but there is more usage of anti-anxiety medication than ever before, antidepressant medication ever before, uh, drug use, alcohol use, like suicide. I mean, and I think it's all because they haven't learned your dance.
You know, Dr. Don Wood talks a lot about how we're so upset when people go for the substances or like the addictions, when the addictions are actually how they're self-soothing and they're not treating the core of what creates all this. And when we see that when we see people taking the meds to soothe them, like many times I thought about maybe I just need to also take different pills. And I've seen my dad. My dad for years lived on Valium and Xanax and all kinds of things. And he just avoided the actual work that, like, maybe he didn't even need to have different, I mean, everybody knows what they need, but when we're able to just take a little look at the core of why we even need the meds, that, like, those are supposed to help us. Those can be a bonus or something, but there's something so powerful about learning about your capabilities and what other features you have that you would have never, there's no way for us to discover them without putting in the inner work. I mean, because when we're on the substances, then we're feeling great. Like, why would I, when I'm feeling great, now go and do something uncomfortable? So yeah, just so much to offer. Like there's so much adventure waiting for us.
Well, I think that's it. It's the adventure. And our brains are, what I've come to conclusion, even for myself, our brains are really good at telling you, like at 5 a.m., when you know the thing that is going to reward you the most is to go to the gym, do a cold tub, do your workout, and you're going to have an incredible day. Like, you know it. It's sort of like oftentimes in terms of like, in like, if you wait till the end of the day into like, or whatever, you're in your marriage or partnership, right? And you go like, oh, it's been a long day. Like, do we have sex or not? And it's like you never get done and go, well, that was a shitty idea. Right. Same thing like with like the workout. I never get done and go, oh, man, I wish I just would have stayed in bed. And I think our brains are really good, really powerful, really, really powerful mechanisms of comfort.
Right. I think it goes back to the vision. Because when we don't have a vision, we're just going to live the same day on repeat. And you can ask yourself, what kind of experiences do I want to have or feel? And when you're just living your same day over and over again, there's a story I heard somewhere where they said, like, pick your pain to get to the pleasure you want.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you want to have a great marriage, you're going to have the pain of going through the dates, like dating somebody. You want to have a great feeling and in your body, then you pick the pain of going to the workouts. So when we have vision, it just gives us a North Star on where we're going. And for example, how did I know that my next fear would be public speaking? As I was thinking, oh, how do I get this message out to as many people as possible? Probably TED Talk. Wow. Well, to get to a TED Talk, the pain would be to to talk a lot and be uncomfortable talking and mastering public speaking. So you have to, or you don't have to, you get to think of your vision, because there's so many options. We can really live the life of our dreams and beyond. And that vision will give us the map to get there. And then you will pick that pain to get there, to that pleasure.
Sarit, this has been an absolute joy having you on. And I love that you're sharing this, and I love how you're sharing it. I think oftentimes anxiety, worry are things that are we don't talk about because it's seen as like a weakness. And I love that you're talking about it and in such a way that's empowering to people to realize that, hey, like this is a superpower waiting to be unlocked and unleashed. And here you are, the person who literally hypochondria, like fear of like flying, like literally just like everything. And now you literally identify you're not an anxious person. Do you have anxiety sometimes? Sure. But that's the leading indicator for you of your next adventure. And you're an adventurer. You're a professional adventurer. Got the stripes. Sarit, if people want to like find your book, they want to know, like be able to reach out to you, to be able to find out more about you, read more of anything, or just in essence, get more you, where do they go?
I'm still working on my website, but it will be sahrit.com, SAHRIT.com. You can easily find my book right now on Amazon, The Girl Who Doesn't Go on Roller Coasters. I also have an audiobook that I recorded with my voice. So all the drama, I really live my experiences when I read them. Well, you're welcome. And also we kind of did it with a podcast style in between chapters. Lior is talking with me. So that's really fun in the audiobook. And on my Instagram, you can message me. It's at Sahrit Weinstein, SAHRIT WEINSEIN. Wait, Weinstein, WEINSTEIN. Sahrit Weinstein.
Yeah. And then LinkedIn.
I'm still new to that. I'm still figuring that out. But yes, Sahrit Weinstein on there. I'm on TikTok, Sahrit Weinstein. What else is there?
Well, and on the MaxLife podcast with Ben Laws. Yeah. Sahrit, love having you here. As you know, I like to, or maybe you don't know, I like to have our guests leave the last ripple, the last thought, the last question, the last pondering to the audience. So, what would you leave our audience today with?
Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay. And that we all have fears. And as long as we're willing to come out of the comfort zone, we can learn so much about ourselves and then about our purpose, and then we can go and share it with the rest of the world. And if we're each healing ourselves, we can heal the whole world.
Mm.
So please, please, please do the inner work.
You're amazing, Sahrit. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing so generously. Loved having you.
Thank you for listening. A big thanks to Elation Lab for the production and creative design. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Keep listening for more Max Life.